Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Productivity Mastery. Stuart is here once again, and as usual, bringing you some of the most amazing people you can find out there. And today is not an exception because I'm here with Monique Ruff-Bell. And Monique, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
How do you feel starting your Monday morning with me?
I feel good about it. That's a good start to a Monday.
That's good. That's good. To maybe keep it real, what's on your mind these days? Like what is your main focus for the week?
My main focus for the week is that I'm working 3 days and then I go on vacation. So finishing out the work that I have to finish out as best as to my ability, and then hitting a vacation. Cancun awaits.
I'm a little bit jealous, but I will just I will behave. Let's put it that way. So listen, everybody here, you're in for a treat because my guest today is not just a super cool and fun person. She's the Chief Program and Strategy Officer at TED.com. Uh, Everybody listening, I'm sure you've heard about this organization. You've been listening to TED Talks all your life. And I'm here with somebody who's behind this organization and who's running the show, so to say. And I can't wait to learn from her. Monique, why don't you give us a bit of a glimpse of your story? How did you end up on this type of position?
Yeah, great. So I'm a part of a very dynamic team at TED, who kind of helps make sure that we put out some of the best content in the world that motivates, inspires, and educates. And so, kind of where my journey started with TED, I've been with TED about 2.5 years, and I started as their head of conferences. So, overseeing all of their flagship event programs, which is about 2 to 3, sometimes 4 per year. So, you have TED flagship events, and then you have TEDx events. So, those are two different types of event formats for TED. A TEDx event is our licensing program. So a volunteer comes to us and says, I would love to host a TED event in my city. Can I get permission to do that? Basically, they, fill out an application, they go through a process. If they approve, they get a license, and they are fully the organizer of that TEDx event. A TED flagship event is run by the corporate entity of TED, which is what I was overseeing. TEDx events are usually a day. TED flagships are multi-day conferences, so they're a little bit larger. They come with more than just the TED Talks. There are activations, there are workshops, there are dinners, there are parties, there are activities, there are discovery sessions, there are brain dates, and then you have TED Talks. So it's just like a lot of things that kind of go into a flagship program. And then recently, I was promoted into the chief program and strategy role a couple of months ago. And now I oversee the TEDx program, continue to oversee the TED flagship programs. I oversee marketing, and I oversee our sales partnership program. So a couple of things on my plate, all very exciting. And so it is a lot of people think, TED is just the TED Talks. It is a very robust nonprofit entity.
And it's fascinating for somebody following the brand and following all these TED Talks for 10, 15 years now to I've always been fascinated by the level of quality of these events. I mean, watching it only the TED Talks, the not the TEDx, but the TED Talks. Like everything seems so smooth and flawless, and the big stage and the speakers are so mm, great in their presentations. What's happening behind the scenes? There was a little bit. How do you manage to keep the quality at such a standard?
There is no such thing as flawless in events. Let's start there. There is always some type of little fire happening in the background. As long as the attendees and the community doesn't see it, then that means we're doing an A+ job. But there's definitely stuff happening. I think we care so much about putting out high quality content that we invest a lot in doing that. So it's finding the right speakers and then taking the time to coach them through our process. Some people confirm a speaker. They say, okay, you're going to speak on such such date at such time. They might check in with that speaker once or twice, and they kind of leave it to the speaker to kind of present something. Giving a TED Talk is a much more comprehensive and could be a little bit of an intimidating opportunity because it is such a global and world stage. And the community wants all of the speakers to do very well. And plus, you have to give a TED style talk. That format is very different than what you see in other programs and conferences, right? So you have to really stick to one idea. And it's really hard for someone to just talk about one thing without going off on a tangent and talk about 10 other things. And you really have to weave in dynamic storytelling. You got to make someone care about what you're talking about, even if they don't understand it. They didn't think they would care about it or anything like that. So that's coaching. That's months of coaching to kind of help them do that. And then when they get on stage, they're a bunch of nerves. They're nervous. And sometimes it's not always flawless. What you see online is an edited version of a TED Talk. So there could be times where they skip something, messed up or whatever. And, the community in the audience is there cheering them on, getting them back to getting their confidence back up for them. And sometimes they have to start over. And so that absolutely happens at the event. 99% of our TED Talks are filmed at our events. These aren't just filmed. They're not filmed in studios or anything like that. You might see a couple of interviews here and there filmed in studios, but our TED Talks are filmed at events where they have a live audience they're talking to. And so, sometimes that's nerve-wracking for someone to do that. So what you see is an edited version, but if you ever purchase one of our virtual ticket passes to our events, which we do have for our flagships, then you see the real deal. Then you see sometimes the pauses and the little bit of, the messing up or whatever. But everybody's human. It still comes out great. The storytelling is still powerful and it inspires and motivates. So it's all good.
And it's fascinating the kind of names that you guys managed to get in the speakers lineup. As you mentioned, many of these people are probably not professional speakers. They're extremely good in something. They have great ideas to share, but doesn't mean that they are speaking on big stages on a daily basis. But what I'm curious to hear from you is, how do you manage to convince such level of authorities to come and join you and to commit to do a TED Talk?
It all depends. We're a global platform. We're well known. We're a very strong brand. People's lives have been changed after they've given a TED Talk, with the resources and opportunities that are now presented to them after they give a TED Talk. So a lot of people understand the value of that. And so it's not necessarily always hard, unless there's a scheduling conflict or anything like that, for us to get to a yes with someone. Not everybody says yes, but a lot of times they do say yes to this program. And I think it's because, we fact check our talks, and we put a lot of time and resources into making sure that the talk is strong, robust, fact checked. And they, people feel confident and they trust kind of what we're presenting on our platforms. And so to go to a trusted source, which is now far and few between with the world that we're kind of living in, that's really good to have that reputation. And there's a lot of people who love to be on platforms where they know that they're going to get a global audience. Your talk can end up with hundreds of thousands of views to millions of views to billions of views. And to know that what you're speaking of so passionately and so articulately can be out there in the universe for as long as the internet is there, to kind of have a place that you can direct people about your talk and kind of what you're doing and what you care about. So it becomes a really strong tool in a person's arsenal of how they're brand building themselves, their work. And so to have that opportunity on the TED stage is kind of magical for them.
Was there a specific individual that you really wanted to get on stage, but you had to chase them a little bit before it happened?
We're still trying to get Michelle Obama. We would love to get her on the stage. So if anybody in our universe is listening,
Michelle, if you're here with us now on the live, Monique wants you on stage. Please reply to her email.
Some people are so busy. They are so tied up years and years in advance, schedules, and plus time. Like I said, it's not that you just show up and do a talk. You got to, everybody goes through our coaching. Everybody engages with us to kind of make sure that their talk is in the proper TED Talk format. That takes more time, right? And so it takes a lot of time to invest into giving a TED Talk. And, sometimes people just don't have that time right now, or they're pretty booked up or what have you. So, but we still manage to pull off getting other great people. And I always say it's the ones that are the unknowns that really kind of blow you away, because you just had no idea you would be interested in something that they might be speaking about. And I tell that to people all the time when they come to the conference. Like, some people are really rigid. They got their schedule. They're very, that I'm going to see this, because at our biggest conference is 80 plus TED Talks. You truly have to pace yourself. Like, that is a lot of content coming at you for 5 days. You cannot sit in a theater to see 80 TED Talks. Like, it's not happening. So you're going to be like, I want to see this, this, this. And I was like, always leave room for, and flexibility for the ones you never thought you would be interested in, because those are usually the ones that's truly going to blow you away. So don't be too rigid with your schedule.
That is such a good recommendation. Sometimes just let me just be open and just
Yeah.
try this unknown speaker to speak about something that completely has nothing to do with what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. Who was somebody in the past 6 or 12 months that completely blew your mind?
Oh my God. It's so many speakers, but what I can tell you is that, because I've been going to nothing but TED events for the past couple of months, so it's just like a blur a little bit. So it's for me, it's not that it's
Mm.
the speakers' names. It's literally the fact that you get to go through this emotional roller coaster. So another thing that people don't understand about a TED conference is what you see online is the 12 to 18-minute snip version of one TED talk, but we have sessions that are themed. So those are usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long, with a TED speaker back to back talking under that theme. So it could be about capitalism, it could be about inspiration, motivation, whatever. It could be about a particular thing for that. And then you got 8 TED Talks, different people talking about that particular theme in different ways. And it is the emotional roller coaster of, sometimes they make you laugh, sometimes they make you cry, sometimes they make you think, sometimes they make you angry, sometimes they make you go through all of those in the one talk. And so you're like on this 2-hour emotional roller coaster, and then something happens called a headache. And so after you kind of go through all of this and you've just listened to all of these TED Talks, all of this emotional, great, good, make you think, ponder, or whatever, you walk away because you've never been in an environment like that. And you're just like, what just happened to me? And then when you walk away from, you like, I missed that. Like, I missed going into such a unique environment. So to me, all of the speakers kind of stand out in the theme of putting you through this roller coaster of content that just is like, it drains you sometimes, because it's just a lot coming at you, a lot of information, but it's so good. It's so good, and it's so rare that you ever get to kind of be in a space like that. So it's just like, I can't call out any particular one of the 6 to 12 months. They all were great. I don't think I only remember what I felt more than
Mm.
anything sitting in those audiences. And it was truly an emotional experience of a lot of things.
Do you even get the chance to fully immerse yourself as an audience? I've been organizing much smaller events, and it's been really difficult for me to to put off the organizer's hat and to
Yeah.
fully enjoy it. And usually you watch the speakers on the recordings and it's, oh my god, what a great speech. But like in your mind you're always kind of troubleshooting, right? Like what could go wrong so we can avoid it and prevent it. Like, do you manage to be there, to be present and
I,
enjoy the
I
speeches?
force I force myself to sit in as an audience member multiple times throughout the conference, because number one, it's important to feel the energy of the room. Like, what you created, did you kind of do it? Did you accomplish that that emotive experience that you're trying to do? And so you won't know that by looking at a screen. You got to be in the room to kind of see that. And then sometimes you want to see certain speakers, and so you carve out the time to make sure you can be in the room for that. I have wonderful leaders on my team, wonderful team members. There's a lot of trust that I give my team that they will be able to execute things without me being in the weeds, that I don't want to be in the weeds, to be honest, of things. And they do such a dynamic and wonderful job of executing all of our plans, that my job on site is, sometimes I'm a host. I'm on the TED stage hosting. I'm managing new relationships that are kind of formulating and percolating that could kind of lead to different partnerships for us. I am putting out any fires that kind of pop up. There's a whole PR initiative that happens where I have to be on site to help with those things and interviews or whatever. And then it's just kind of making sure the trains run on time. And if they're not, like, what's happening? Can we do to improve certain things? So I have my very clear list of things I execute on, and I stick with it, as my team members have theirs. And so, but carving out that time to be in the room is extremely, you have to, as an organizer, you gotta, like, it's like being a cook and never tasting your food. Like, you can't do that. Like, then you're not a good chef. Like, you have to kind of be there to really kind of taste your food, see if everything is kind of hitting in the way that you need it to hit.
Out of curiosity, how many months earlier do you guys start preparing for an event?
A year. It's a year. It's an ongoing process. Once we're done, we're back to starting. Like, we're closing up and we're kicking off all over again. And just because our registration might not be opened the full year, there's a whole bunch of work that's happening behind the scenes to get ready for a launch, right? You just don't say, I'm going to have an event on Monday and you launch it on Tuesday. There's a whole slew of things you have to set up for your launch. So you need time to do that. We're a global platform. We get people that come from over 93 countries that come to our flagship events. They need time to do that or whatever. So we have to be in the market. We have to make sure our marketing plans are robust. They're talking to the community. We have to make sure our venue plans are robust and set up for what we need it to be set up for. We have to make sure we're announcing some speakers right at the very beginning. So curation has to start pretty much early to kind of get that all confirmed and stuff. So it is continual. It's a continual cycle of working on things when you're doing these large flagship conferences.
What do you find most challenging to put up an event of such a world-class event?
Topping yourself year over year. So I think, it's really important that we have a very high retention rate. We have people who've been coming to our TED conferences, especially our global, what we call our Big TED, which has been going on since 1984. We have people been coming since 1984. We have people been coming since the 90s, early 2000s. So, you want them to keep coming year over year, but if they keep seeing the same thing over and over again, what happens? People get bored. They were like, oh, I can skip a year. I don't have to come this year. All of that good stuff. And so you really have to keep reimagining, keep innovating, keep, the surprise and delight happening. And so you really have to think about what that needs to kind of look like year over year, and ideating and giving yourself time to ideate about that. So for me, that is the biggest challenge with the team. But I have a great team and we all participate in the ideation process. It's not just me. It's not just the leaders. Even if you're working in customer service, even if you are doing audio, holding a camera, or whatever, everybody participates in our solution meetings, which is, okay, what are the things we're going to do? What are the big bets we're going to produce this year? We usually do 3 big bets at each conference. And that's 3 new things that we are going to either tweak, improve, or innovate at our conference. And everybody has a voice. Everybody has a vote. And we kind of come up with what those ideas can be as a group. We take a vote on the top 3, and then we figure out how we can execute those top 3.
Fascinating. There was a book by a Hollywood producer. I'm not sure he was on the TED stage. Brian Glazer was his name, I
Brian
think.
Glazier. I know.
Yeah, so he wrote a book called Curious,
Mhm.
and the main idea was that he acquires most of his success to a simple practice that he started, that was inspired by his grandmother, that told him, you need to be curious and you got to get to know people. So he took it to heart, and when he started his career, he started inviting for dinners and lunches people that he doesn't know but are exceptionally good in what they do. So maybe he will invite a surgeon for lunch. He'll buy them lunch and he'll just be curious and ask questions about, how come are you the best in what you do? What are your habits? What do you do? How do you prepare? And in the book and in the interviews he gives, he shares that this type of practice helped him to get so much inspiration from different industries, because he's like, I don't want to be in a tunnel. I want to be inspired by different industries, different professionals, and much of my success as a producer, I think he had at the time 84 Oscar nominee in his movies. Like, I mean, crazy. He says this been my inspiration, getting inspiration from different places and industries, and I wonder, where is your inspiration coming from?
Oh, my inspiration comes from so many different sources. And so for me, I always think like you have to look outside of your industry a lot of the times, because there's a lot of unique and different things that are happening that maybe you can kind of bring back into your industry. So I'm in I do now several different things for TED, but my main thing was events. And so really looking at how do others, like, we want to be at the forefront of events. We want to be the leading conference. When people think about what are some of the top best conferences in the world, we want people to say TED conferences. So to start off with that, like when you want to kind of be the leader, you really always have to be in competition with yourself. But you also got to understand kind of what's happening out there in the market and things like that. So of course you look at music events, festivals, sporting events, and kind of see kind of what is happening outside of just your conferences, right? Because those are two different things. TED is not a B2B conference. It is not a business to business conference. It is not even a B2C kind of event, because it's a really its own little event, because it is truly for the curious. It is a place where you invest because you consider yourself a curious lifelong learner, and you feel like you love to get that, like we like those the brain spa happening to you, because it helps you to motivate you or inspire you to do other great things within your personal or your professional life. But you are investing in you, and so that's more like a retreat type thing, but it's not necessarily a retreat because it's a conference, right? So it's like all of these weird things together. So I have to look at all of these different places and areas to kind of pull from, because we are so unique. So kind of like, what are other content platforms? Where are other people going to kind of see and get information and learning and stuff like that? What are the other ways they are engaging in a person in-person experience? What are other ways where they're having fun? As simple as kind of like creating a fun, dynamic, engaging atmosphere is important to an event, because people aren't going to be traveling to, it's number one, they can't afford to be going to 20 different events like maybe pre-COVID. Businesses have tightened up their travel expenses. People are literally only investing in certain type of programs. And so they're really being very specific and very calculated. And they want this one event to do everything for them. They want to be entertained. They want to be educated. They want to have a connective tissue to things. They want to be motivated. They want to be inspired. They want to party. They want to do all of the things at your one event. And so I have to take from all of these different areas, like what makes a good party? What makes a good community? Like these people stay in touch past our event. So we keep our app live all year round, as in other events shut down their app after their event. Our event stays live. You can still contact someone that you met through via our app, even 6 months later after the event. So it's just like, how do you keep the engagement? How do you do socials? How do you do, like, these moments throughout the years for them so they can stay connected? So I'm looking at all of these different avenues and looking at what's kind of happening out there in the world to kind of get an understanding of what we should be making sure we're tweaking or thinking about more and doing it the TED way, not their way.
I don't think people realize how much work of the highest quality needs to be done in order for such event to be produced to such a level, with the amount of people coming, with the expectations, with the ambitions to be the best event in the world. So I just want to say thank you, Monique, for leading by example, for being an inspiration to us. I mean, you got to see yourself, your energy when you speak about the event. You're just like you're fire.
I do get a little animated.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about the speakers. What is the process? What the past couple of years, for example, because I guess depending on who's the program director, it might be different. But what what is your process of curating the speakers lineup?
So we have a full-time editorial curation team. So they are paid to go find some of the best and dynamic speakers in the world. It's not a huge team, but there is a team. So you have the editorial aspect of things. Then we have the intake. So you can actually go on our website at TED.com, go to the speaker nomination form, and nominate yourself or someone else to give a TED talk. They are all reviewed. And the thing about that is, and I want to give a little bit of a tip for people who are interested in doing the TED talk. Please do your due diligence and see if that talk has already been given. And so, a lot of people are really passionate about their topic and they feel like I could give this amazing TED talk. And they don't go and either look through TED.com, look on YouTube to see if someone else did that. Or they'll cut and paste one of the talk they've given 17,000 times. And then they'll say, yes, this makes a good TED talk. And then they think we will want to platform that talk that they've given 17,000 times. No, because if it can be found on the internet and other places, why would we platform that same talk? And then number three, when they apply, they don't make the description dynamic. Like, what is it that makes your talk different than what you've already seen out there? What makes yours more effective or more sticky than what we've already probably covered? Like, we have thousands and thousands of TED Talks. Your topic has been covered by someone else. And so when you're looking at you doing your research and you're kind of saying what makes your talk different than the others, a lot of people don't do the back end research of things. They just feel really confident in their talk and they're like, I'm the person that can give this talk, where this talk has been given probably 6 different times in 6 different ways because there was a unique spin on it. So if you're going to apply and nominate yourself for a TED talk, we have 20,000 plus people who've already gone through our nomination intake process. It's very competitive. Like I said, if you got 20,000 people and I only got 80 slots here, 40 slots here, 20 slots here, you're going to kind of pick the best of the best that's bubbling up. And that's hard. And you have to really put in the time and the effort to submit the right information that makes you stand out, and kind of doing your due diligence, doing your research, not cut and pasting a description, not giving the talk you already given 17 times, like really kind of thinking about the differentiator for you is important. And I think, last but not least, TEDx is a wonderful way to give a TED talk. And so it is in your community, it is for your community. And we platform on our site the dynamic TED Talks. Brene Brown gave her first talk was a TEDx talk. It was not a TED flagship talk. There are many, many people who are discovered through the TEDx platform, through the TEDx talks. So don't think that you got to just go for what I like to call the big dog of things. Like you just got to go for that one, where it could be a little bit more of an easier pathway or even a better opportunity to go through your local TEDx organizer. We do platform those talks.
I did give a TEDx talk, and it's being platformed at TED.com. So I would imagine it's been a dynamic one.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because they don't platform all the TEDx talks, but they platform a good amount of TEDx talks because they're just really good talks. Like
Now I
it's
feel
no,
now I feel special. I feel
you
special.
should
I didn't
feel
know. I didn't know. Now I feel like, oh,
it is really special because it is a lot of talks out there. And for you to kind of get as a TEDx speaker to get platformed and chosen to kind of live on our different platform is a huge accomplishment. So just because it has the X after it, you still gave a TED talk. It just has an X after it, right? You're still on the platform. So people shouldn't shut out automatically the TEDx forum just because it says TEDx. Those are absolutely dynamic and a great way for you to get easier access to giving a TED talk.
yeah. And for the audience as well, I think I probably visited, I don't know, 10 TEDx events in different countries, and it's always a super nice experience because, I mean, the format is great, right? You have this up to 18 minutes talks, but then
Mhm.
there's the networking, there's the
That's right.
community, and there's also every event is unique because the organizers give a little bit of personal touch.
Exactly. Yep. It looks a little different each time. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful, Monique. Wow, so many great ideas already. And I think not just great ideas for people who are in events, for example, but again, coming back to Brian and in his book Curious, I think everybody can get inspiration and take these ideas and implement them in your own industry. One thing that I recognize, I told you, is your passion. This energy, this fire. Have you always been so excited about organizing events, or where is all that fire coming from?
Well, to be honest, I've always done events for my entire career. And so if you make a choice to stay in one industry for your entire career, you better be passionate about it, or you're going to be miserable. And so for me, when I made the decision, like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And I get to see so many unique things. I get to travel the world for events. I get to do these activities that maybe I would have never been able to do if I didn't, wasn't in this industry. It is, I'm a business strategist. I get to use business acumen within events. I get to grow something. I get to see something excel. I get to see something that can be innovated. I get to play a part in, management leadership in a way. It's such a viable career. It's a great career. And so I absolutely enjoyed it. I made the decision that this is kind of where I wanted to be for this part of my life. I do have an act two and what that's going to look like for me, but my act one is this, and I'm super happy about it and I enjoy it. And so what you're seeing is good energy because I have a lot of joy from it.
When I was preparing for my TEDx talk, I obviously bought the book. Uh, what was the
From
name? TED
Chris.
Talks from Chris.
Yes.
By the way, an amazing book. I've read many books on public speaking, and this one is probably the most structured, precise. Even if you're not about to give a TED talk, but a speech,
Right.
keynote, I think this is it's great. It's really good.
Good.
But I wonder, what is it like working with people like him? I've seen an interview you did with him a couple months ago, and we'll talk about the new project. But let's keep the audience engaged first.
Okay.
What is it like working with him? That somebody who's been so many years in the team, and knowing the leadership of the people behind the brand.
So Chris is not the founder of TED. And so he took over TED in the early 2000s and he made TED into a nonprofit. So we are under the TED Foundation. He has such an amazing experience when he used to go to the TED conferences before he took over ownership of it. And so, what you are seeing from Chris is another person with passion and another person who has passion for the brand, passion for the mission, helped to evolve the mission to be global. He is the one that was like, we need to give this away for free. We have this in this once a year in this room with these, people, very elite people who get to have this wonderful opportunity to engage with some of the most innovative things that are happening within the world, and only these people are getting access to it. We need to give it out to the world. So, when YouTube came online at that time, he was like, unleash it for free. And people thought he was crazy. Like, why are you giving all of this stuff away for free? And then when he said, I want the world to host their own TEDx events, their own TED events. So we're going to start something called TEDx, right? And so he was like, and give it for free. And so it's just like, he is passionate about the mission of TED. And so to be around a lot of people are passionate within TED. It's like they attract or hire a lot of people who have this energy about them. And so to kind of be in this space with so many people who are like, yes, what more can we do to get people to engage and get opportunities to see these wonderful TED Talks and to come to these conferences? How can we make it more affordable? How can we create scholarships? How can we create more diversity? How can we, like, all of these things are top of mind because we want to give more to the world. It's as simple as that. And so kind of to be in a room where that's what people are talking about, that's what people are caring about. Like, we're a nonprofit, like we have a commercial entity because we have to pay for all of the free. You still got to pay that cameraman. That cameraman ain't working for free just because you give it out something else, right? You still got to pay these marketers and these platforms and all this other stuff. So, a lot of things that we do charge for is to help us fund the free and help us to continue to expand and create the mission. So that takes a lot to do that.
Well, we're fans of TED.com. Productivity Master is a fan of TED.com. You guys go check out, if you haven't been on the webpage recently, maybe tonight, go there, search around, find a TEDx event that's in your area, watch some TED Talks, share a couple of them on LinkedIn. Let's support these guys, as much as we can.
There we go.
Part of the innovation, one of the things that I recognized recently, and I wanted to talk to you about it, for years, the slogan of TED.com was ideas worth spreading. And recently, I came across this new slogan: ideas change everything. Can we talk about it? What's going on? What happened?
Well, TED has been around for 40 years. So let's start there. And with any brand, you have to have an evolution of things, right? People interact and engage with things very differently than they did even pre-pandemic, let alone 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And sometimes not all ideas are worth spreading. And so like let's be honest about kind of where we're at in this world right now. And so you have to be like very careful about kind of what you put out there in the way of how people interpret certain things, because TED is also evolving our formats and kind of our platform. And as we want to bring in more speakers that might be more controversial in a way that, society is 50-50. One person doesn't care for what someone else is saying. One person thinks it's the most wonderfulest thing that has ever, like, we're in that very divided society. And so you're going to have to start bringing people. We want to be a place where you're going to have to start bringing those type of people on a platform to have a understanding, not an agreement, an understanding of how they even got to this. Why did they get to this? Why they feel strongly about this opinion. That's sometimes we're going to be doing that in a debate type format. Sometimes we're going to be bringing speakers who might not have the best PR or have had controversial opinions about certain things. And when you have ideas worth spreading, that could be interpreted in a very different way if you start kind of leaning into this type of format. And so we wanted to be clear that ideas change everything, because it does. It's a spark. And this idea that you might not agree with could spark something else that can be life-changing, game-changing, society-changing. It changed something for you listening to this person that you might have never given a chance to listen to because of how polarized this world is in. And also, there are other people who you kind of want to just understand more. And it's not that we're trying to say you have to agree with them or you have to come to their side of things or whatever. But an understanding has to happen, because if we keep going this way with each other, that is not going to help this world come back to this. Eventually, we have to come back to this because we're stronger together. And so we're just trying to, there's no other platform that's really kind of doing that we can see. And we're saying, okay, we want to be Tribune. We want to put ourselves out there and kind of do this and kind of see what happens. And the language you put out there matters. And so that's kind of with the evolution of the tagline that mattered to us.
Wow. Didn't see that coming, but what a beautiful explanation. What a beautiful explanation,
It's
and
the
it makes so
truth.
much.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I love it. Monique, I wanna imaginarily bring you onto a time machine and let you imagine that you're going back 5 years in the past. You still have a lot of experience as an event and conference producer, but you haven't been to part of the TED team.
Mhm.
What changed for that period for you personally? Like, if you can reflect backwards right now, what are some of the I mean, you might have listened to hundreds, if not thousands, of TED speeches at the time. What did you learn? What kind of new mindsets and habits, leadership mindsets, have you acquired since the time you've been working for TED.com?
Yeah, I think the community aspect, like really, like there's people who commercialize their audience and that's all they really think about. And of course, like I said, we have a commercial aspect to what we are trying to do too, because we are a nonprofit and we have to fund other things through that commercial aspect. But the the community of TED is like something you've never kind of experienced before. Like, to see people every time you tell them you work for TED, it's just like, you work for TED? Like, oh my God, I watch TED Talks all the time. Or you go to this event and we give out, after our event, we give out a 99 question survey. And and a lot of people fill out that 99 questions. You have to have some type of passion for that event and community for you to sit there and fill out a 99 question survey from beginning to end about your TED experience at this event.
More than
They
three, I'm out. More than three, I'm out. Usually,
99, my friends.
usually.
99, my
Wow,
friend. And
wow.
so hundreds of people get to the end. And
Mm.
so the the way people are about this community and how much they are passionate about it and love it, and want to be engaged, and don't want us to mess it up. And if there's something that we did wrong, we will hear about it. And if there's something that we did right, we will hear about it. And so to come from events where it's literally transactional. It's like, I sell you a ticket, you come, you hear some panels on the stage, a keynote, you do some networking, you eat a little grub, you go home, and that's that. They want to continue to engage with us even after they leave. They want to continue to watch what they might have seen live in person online, and watch that talk again and again and again. Some multiple times they're watching the same talks. They want to be able to kind of say, how can I be a part of this? How can I host something, do something, volunteer? Like I said, a TEDx organizer is a volunteer. They do not get paid for that. And you know how much work it takes to put on an event. And for you to put in all of that time and effort to put on these amazing programs, you have to love it. You have to have a passion for it, for TED. And so I think continuing to feed and water the community to make them contain the stickiness we have with us is something that I didn't have 5 years ago. I had it where people were good at doing business at my programs, or they were good at learning certain things, but it wasn't like some of these people have found their best friends Some of these people have been connected for 40 years through TED, or 20 years or something like that. Some of these people are doing stuff in their own backyard for TED, or saying, how can I help? How can I give? What more can I do? Because of the love of being a lifelong learner, curiosity, and have it being and trusting TED in that way. Never had anything like that before.
And this again is a great learning to everybody listening that's trying to or listen to a course on the internet that told them, bring these people together and start selling them stuff because you need to
Right.
monetize. And it's like, yes, you do need to monetize, but like, can you maybe think about the long-term impact? And of course, if people love your stuff and you treat them well and you give more than and you bring them together, they want to buy stuff from you. It might not be immediately,
Right.
but if we all put on the hat of like giving a little bit more, I mean, that's the way to go, and we can learn so much from you guys as well. Having this kind of a raving fans community, people that can't wait to for the next interaction. Amazing,
It can't,
absolutely
yeah. It
amazing.
is amazing. It's very special. It's very unique, and it's very special. And there's a lot of time, effort, resources that are put into making sure this community feels like a community. Not just like just saying they're a community, but actually feels like a community.
I want to ask you more of a. I mean, this show is called Productivity Mastery. Obviously, we are talking to people and share different approaches, mindsets. But I'm curious about your personal productivity. I mean, people listening now, they'll be like, this lady is like a superwoman. How is she managing all these hats and this world class event, like one of the best in the world, if not the best, like the leading event, so many people, celebrities. I mean, it's incredible, right? And then you're not just doing the event, you're doing many different roles in there. Like, how is she managing, man? What is the secret? What do you do to make sure that you're on top of things? What are your strategies, day-to-day habits? Share with us.
If there's one thing you take away from this talk, take away this. So when I was getting promoted into this role, I had a conversation with my boss and said, I want to put an expectation sheet together between the both of us. This is a very big role. This means I'm going to be dipping in several different areas that are very important to the organization. And I want to be clear on what your expectations of me are and what my expectations of this role is. And I want us to have a negotiation and for us to be on the same page. So it's not just about the title, it's not just about the salary. It is, I want to manage to yours and the company's expectations, and I want to enjoy what I do. And so I need to have some, sweat in this game as well, as in saying, these are the things I enjoy doing, and I want to make sure they are a part of my day to day. So for about 3 weeks, me and my boss went back and forth over this one sheet, this expectation sheet. And under each area, we had a negotiation about what my expectations were for this year and then for future growth. And so really kind of putting that on paper. And so now we manage to that. We talk about it, we go back and forth to it, because some people like to change their minds. They like to pivot, they like to throw curveballs at you and stuff like that. And you got to be flexible for that. Like sometimes that stuff is needed. But the main core things, we needed to be on the same page, because if you didn't understand what I was trying to do, if I didn't understand what you needed, then I was going to fail. And I did not want to fail at this role. I wanted to make sure that I understood and had clarity about what we were trying to accomplish here with putting me in this role, where I can be an asset, where I have more stuff to build, and kind of what success looks like for this year versus 2 years from now. It was a game changer. And I don't think enough people do that with they have like, oh, this is what my job was going to look like in 90 days. And then they might do a 6-month check-in. And then all of a sudden it's just, you're on the hamster wheel. And sometimes you have to, like, this is going to be a yearly thing with between me and him, where I have to manage expectations, because I think we get into trouble, or we get into frustrating habits, or we're frustrated with our roles because we're thinking one thing and they're thinking another, or you're not understanding where the business has pivoted and you're still working towards this. So the communication of having an expectation sheet was a game changer for me.
First of all, I'm super happy I asked you. And secondly, how did you come up with that? Where did you learn this?
I think I learned it because I did it for myself when I decided I wanted to get into leadership roles. So I said, I'm doing all of this work, and the only thing it's getting me is more work. And so I really want to move up and be promoted, and I want to have access to certain things that I currently don't have access to. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm missing certain skill sets within myself. So I did this whole big research thing where, I went and found the people doing the stuff that I like to do, like running big festivals or big B2B program, blah, blah, blah. And I looked on their LinkedIn, and I went and said, okay, this is the thing. This is what they do day to day. Here's their skill set stuff. These are the things I have. These are the things I don't have. I need to start getting the things that I don't have and asking for them and being intentional about asking for them and getting access to them. So because I already did that exercise for myself, which worked and got me to the leadership position, I knew when I was taking on this much bigger role, which was going to be much more comprehensive than just one area within TED, I was like, I need to do the same thing here. But I need me and him to be on the same page about what this looks like and what success looks like. So I'm working towards something, and we're on the same page about what I'm working towards. So that is kind of where that idea came from. It was birthed like 10, 12 years before, because I did that for myself. And then that's kind of like, I need to do it again for this particular role.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I hope everybody was listening carefully. It's such a great, simple thing that most people don't do, setting up their expectations, because what your manager or boss believes is expected from you might be so much different than what's in your head.
That's
And
right.
again, things are changing so fast. So when you're on the same page, you get clarity. Of course, you can be flexible, but
Yep.
you can also say, "Look, I'm already overwhelmed. This is not what's being
That's
expected
right.
from me. So let's talk about how we can resolve it." Right?
That's
So good.
it. That's it. It really gives you a roadmap to having really good conversations with your boss when it comes to your check-ins with each other. And then you understand, like, are we still on the same page? Like I sometimes say, like, are we still moving towards this? Did anything change that I need to know about or whatever? And so it helps me have the language to talk to my manager about his expectations and where the pivots happen, and where do I do need to be flexible at, or where I can say I can't be flexible because you still have this on my plate. Like we still discuss this as being a primary objective. So now we have to change this in order for me to feed this. And so like it just gives you the tools and the language to have really good conversations
Mm.
instead of just a boss saying, "How you doing?" You say, "I'm okay." And then that's it. Like you need a little bit more than that, especially when you get into the C-suite role and the leadership roles.
And you mentioned objectives and priorities. Do you have any kind of a process, sort of like a reflection process, or weekly goal setting? You look at your whole upcoming week and you're like, I need to pay attention to this thing. How do you plan and organize your time?
So I can talk about it from managing up and managing down. Quickly from managing down, every leader on my team has to give me a strategy doc for the year. So they usually do it at the end of this year for next year. And it's like all of your KPIs of what you want to hit. They come up with it, not me. They know their day to day and kind of what are some key things they need to evolve. I feed into it. So before we get to the final, there's a couple of sessions that I have with them where I say, okay, well, I need you to think about this. This seems good. Maybe we should be more flexible here with this, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the year, we all agree this is their strategy document for the year. This is all of the things they're trying to, these are all the key KPIs they have to hit. And then quarterly, we do a review to see how we're getting towards all of those goals. And I believe in the 80-20 rule. I don't think anything can be 100%. And so as long as we're over that 80% threshold line and that we're working by the end of the year, I think it's a good year. So that's managing down. Managing up is when I'm working with other leaders in the department, I ask a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, so what does this mean? What exactly do you? And I ask for a lot of specifics. And sometimes when you keep digging like that, people like, maybe I didn't think this through a little bit. Maybe I gotta come back to you on some things. And then there are some people who are very specific and you have your clarity and you can kind of feed and help them in key ways. Like I said, I already have my expectations document. So I'm working towards that. So every week I'm like, how did I do with the TEDx team? How did I do with my partnerships team? Every week I'm going about how am I feeding into their strategy documents that I see, and also how am I articulating my needs, because we need to do more or less of X, Y, and Z from a revenue standpoint, audience building standpoint, mission standpoint. So if you think about those three buckets, audience, mission, revenue, those are kind of some of the primary things that I make sure I'm touching upon when it comes to leadership. So managing up.
I love it. And as I told you before the podcast, um, literally by the time the podcast is out, our second book is going to be out. And our second book, the topic is crisis leadership. The book is called Perform in Times of Crisis. And I'm just curious. I mean, you are in the business of events. Um, Crisis, emergencies, it should be like a daily occurrence in many, I mean, unexpected happenings, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can maybe share some thoughts and advice on crisis leadership. How do you deal with unexpected challenges, with big fires? What do you do to address this?
So there's two things. There's seeing something oncoming, and then you're getting anxiety about what you're seeing that you think is going to happen, and then there's actually being in crisis. So a lot of times people get a lot of anxiety about stuff that they think is going to happen, and so I try to not live in that type of space. If I see something oncoming, I try to think about what are the ways that we can mitigate it, and I'm focused on giving a very calm energy to the people who need to help me execute this, because people feed off their leaders. And if you have anxiety, they're going to have anxiety. And so I really try to come in with very calm energy and very clear energy about, okay, this is the issue at hand. What can we do to mitigate it? What are the different steps we can take? And I really just have those types of conversations. And when people see they feel like you got it, and that you feel calm about it, they start feeling calm about the thing. And it gives them clarity in their mind to think through things instead of being all a source of anxiety and they can't think straight and all of that other stuff. So the oncoming stuff is making sure that you don't feed into something that did not happen already, that didn't happen yet, and making sure that you just stay calm through that process and figure out what does it take to help mitigate it. You might still have to get that crash, but it could be less because you had the space and energy to really think things through of how you're going to respond to it. When you're in the crisis mode, I think some of this still applies, as in, I'm never going to be the person that's screaming and yelling. I'm never going to be the person that feels like out of control about anything. I'm always going to be the person about, what do we need? What's next? What do we need to do to get through it? I'll get the emotions after by myself or with my husband, but not to my team. Not to my team. They need strong, calm, assertive, clear leadership. And when you are in crisis mode, that is what, even if you have to play, pretend, act, whatever you need to do to make sure everyone around you can stay focused on the problem at hand and how you're going to get through it, instead of the emotional roller coaster that you're going to put them through, it doesn't help anybody to do that. And so I always look at, what are the resources that we have at hand? What are the resources we need to invest to help us get through the crisis? What do we need to communicate out to our team? What does leadership need to understand so they can communicate the right effective messages? Like, communication is always half the battle. Resources is the other half of the battle, but a calm, cool head and a calm, cool mind could go way further than someone who's anxiety filled and is just doing stuff to just do stuff, and they haven't even given themselves time to process and think through what that could look like.
Do you have any personal habits or like mental triggers, you name it, to attain this cool head? Because we're human.
Yeah.
Sometimes situations happen, you're overwhelmed, you're tired, and then something hits. Like, how do you how do you find the coolness in the moment?
I trained myself. I've been on a journey of boundary setting for myself so that when these things do happen, so I was very proactive because I've been in events my entire career. Of course, you've seen all the fires and you've seen, like, I wasn't always a leader, I was an executor. And you see how sometimes these people reacted to things. I was like, I'm never going to be that. Like, I'm never going to, that did not help. That was not helpful. That did not move us along to a better answer to what we needed or whatever. Like, so me watching and learning what not to do helped. And so being proactive with setting myself up is like learning breathing exercises, knowing when to step away, learning for how you ask for certain things so you can get the right information, processing information, stuff like that. That's all the stuff you need to do before the crisis. So you need to be putting as much energy into building yourself up to handle crisis as you are when a crisis occurs. And I think that's something that's missed because a lot of people don't think about leadership in that way. They just think I have to have the answer. And sometimes it's your body language, it's kind of how you speak, it's your tone, it's everything that motivates or inspires someone to be a problem solver instead of just sitting in the problem. And so if you understand yourself and how do you get yourself to a place that when those things happen, these are my tactics for myself to be a strong leader in those situations, that's half the battle.
Monique, you're an impressive woman. I mean, I don't want this conversation to end. I'm like, I have 49 more questions at least. It's you have so much experience, your vibe, your energy. I mean, it's just fascinating. I'm so grateful we have you here. Um,
Thank you.
and by the way, those of you listening, if you are an event producer, Monique is an exceptional speaker as well. I've seen her on stage. I don't know if she does it professionally, but she's really good at it. Do you
Thank
speak
you.
on
I
professionally as
do.
well?
I do.
Okay, so event producers, pay attention. Make sure to invite her. She's very busy, but I'm pretty sure that if you come up with the right offer, she will pay attention to that as well. So to kind of to wrap up this amazing experience, thanks everybody who's being with us during the whole episode as well. To wrap up, I know Monique, you working on something new, something that you're very excited about. So why don't you share with us what's happening these days?
So if you have never been to a TED flagship experience, like I said, you have TEDx, which is different than a flagship. Never been to a TED flagship experience. We are now bringing a wonderful new conference to Atlanta, October 22nd through the 24th, called TED Next. And what TED Next was birthed from was the fact that we have our TEDx organizers who do these wonderful smaller events. And it is all about kind of what's happening that can motivate, inspire, or what's happening in that community or what have you. And then you went all the way to Big TED, which is our big premium 5-day conference. The ticket price is $12,500. So you went from paying like $50 or $100 for a TEDx to 12,500 for, and it's a wonderful environment. And we have different ways that you can get access to it, even if you can't afford that particular ticket price. But it was a big gap. And so you have Big TED, which is more of the future of, and it's about society, technology, kind of things that are kind of happening within the world and what's new and innovative there. But how do you become a builder to plug into the future of? And so we were like, what's missing is the future you. How do we help you kind of build, become that creative, that activist, that builder, that professional that can evolve to play a big part into the society of? And so that's what 10X is. It's all about the future you. It is all about not only your personal development, but your professional development. It's all about performance. It's all about sustainability, learning how to, how you can be a better steward within your community. It is also about kind of different topics on how to understand your professional life, how to be a bigger and better leader, and really learn from the people who are the up and comers, who are the builders, who are doing that to give you something easy for you to start implementing within your life. And so that is, we have an early bird rate right now that is around until the end of July. That's about $2,200. It's 3 days. It is 40 plus TED Talks. It is workshops. It is offsite activities. It is discovery sessions. It is parties. It is dinners, dine around programs. It is brain dates. It is all of the things for 3 days. And so if you've ever wanted to kind of get a taste of what a full on TED flagship experience is, and to help evolve you as a person, then TEDx is something where it's the first year. We've just launched it. We're excited about it, and we want to see people from all over the world attend it.
That's it. That's it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Monique, for being with us today, for sharing all these learnings. Everybody needs to go and check out this new flagship event. And of course, just want to remind everybody, episode 190 of Productivity Mastery means there's 189 more episodes. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to share with a friend. And of course, go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're listening us from, and make sure to subscribe because that gives us a chance to bring you incredible people like Monique and get inspired. So thanks once again for everybody listening, being with us to the end of the episode. And Monique, once again, you're just amazing. I mean, I don't
Oh,
know what to
thank
say.
you.
I'm so grateful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Ciao, everybody.
Bye bye.